Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to PCM23 Lions, episode 103. We begin our double set of the Jiro Adriatico and Perry Nice. Jiro Adriatico up first with a team time trial of 21.5 kilometers. 83 is a little bit below the threshold. Actually, De Villiers, who I bumped up to an 87, that's where I want to try to be. So we're going to see if we can bump it up a little bit more. De Villiers will push harder because he's a terrible time trialist. I want him to take one turn and then get out of the way, and that'll be it. We're going to have him push. Actually, I'll even have him push a 90. I don't care that he's going to get dropped. But as a puncher, you know what? I'm going to just tell him to get out. Get out of there. Red bar is the big one to keep an eye on. Yellow bar, not as much. So far, De Villiers is the only one who is struggling to keep pace. Everybody else is doing just fine on that front here in the early stages. But the red bar is not going that deep at all. So we're going to go ahead and push this up to an 88. Up that tempo. Go a little bit deeper on your turns. We've got some guys that can time trial pretty decently here. We're nowhere near the favorites list, but we are certainly in contention for good. Benio Messias is 70-70, but he's got a +5 and 9 today. It's not quite 100% time trial. There's a little bit of prologue influence. 25K is the full threshold on that kind of profile. There's De Villiers doing that single second, peeling out of the way. He's not getting dropped yet at this point, which means we're really not going that hard, are we? 8th, 28 seconds down. That's a pretty average time. A lot of teams have already gone. We're at the tail end of this thing, but again, we did accelerate a bit from where we were. But the 88 seems quite sustainable here, enough so that I think we can push an 89. He's final 8K. Teasier, this is the worrying one. Do we need to back off for him? He beat up De Villiers. Everybody else is struggling to keep pace with him. We'll let him finish this turn. Oh yeah, he's going deep. He's going very deep with his 89. And peels off just in time. That's a good turn. That's a hard turn. And De Villiers is gone, but that's okay. He's not our leader anyway. Look at the progress we're making now with 2K to go. Peeling out. Third. 20 seconds. Huge improvement. Finished well, finished strong. Clearly could have gone a little bit harder, but it wouldn't have made a huge time difference. That little bit harder earlier, spread that all out a little bit long. Not initially having an 83 off the line and taking about a kilometer before we settle in at the appropriate 87. If we had started at, say, 88 and gone consistently, we would have been a little bit faster. We would have gained 3-4 seconds at the very beginning, and we probably would have gained a couple more seconds along the way, or a few more seconds. I think we would have had enough to bump a spot to second, but we would have been nowhere near Soudal Quickstep. It wouldn't have meant a victory. We put in a good time. We gained 8 seconds over that last sequence. We were quick, but we couldn't have maintained that throughout. I think we would have been closer to just holding our spot and maybe being 10 to 15 down. But overall, really good result. That's going to put us in a very good position for the Jiro Adriatico going forward. Final standings for us is 5th place, 24 seconds down overall. I think we would have been 3rd or 4th had we got it right throughout. But again, still a really good result. Those few more seconds would have been just perfect, where that was just really good instead. Stage 2, Jiro Adriatico. We're going to speed things up for now. If we need to, we'll slow things down if something's going to happen. But something's already happened. A light rain has been enough to cause a crash, and Clote has gone out injured. So we are down a key guy as we go through the penultimate climb. Full group intact, though some fatigue definitely in the group. And to make matters worse, we have another issue here with Isaacs. The expected race day condition today was a +14. I've got like 4 guys who are not only on Fitness Peaks, but I got a fair amount of objectives placed on this race with especially some of the support riders. Our draw today, at the moment, is a -1. It was a +2. Had a +3. A +2 net or a -1 net in the end on an expected +14. It can't get much worse than that. I mean, that is about as bad of a draw as you could see. Despite that, I'm still optimistic, though, as our leading man, Arab, the only green we've got, +5. With 4 fitness peaks and like 3 objectives, we're looking at one guy in the green. But it's the guy. So let's hope he can do something, but can we give him enough support? We lost our top lead out guy, so we're going to have to switch to a Shimway. It would have been De Villiers as the other big lead out guy, but he's got a big old nasty -3. Isaac seems to be the next guy, though he's the most fatigued. He's going to have to go early, but Roteasir's, Roteasir's got nothing. He's going to have to handle the lead up, I think. Just based on fatigue-wise, Benny Messias is going to have to kind of be a buffer with Roteasir and Isaac's pushing early, and then Benny Messias will never even really have a turn. He'll just be the buffer guy, and we'll go straight on to De Villiers. So we'll gel up on these first 2. Let's get out front. Get in place, 11K. It's already getting late. It's not that punchy, but 2 hill sections, a false flat in between. Means you're going to see a little bit of everything with this. And we're down to 8K as Roteasir is done. Do we want to 99 him for a moment? Yeah, here comes the others. 7K. So pushing on. Gel. There's that first section. We're going to hit that false flat fairly soon. Last little bit. Here comes others. So Benny Messias needs to really get things on the move again. Stop their attack. On to De Villiers, 4K. Gel and Gel. We're down to the last 3 guys here. Field's stretched thin. There's really only 3 guys, or 2 guys just behind us in contention. Nah, it's more than that. They're there. They're close. Especially as De Villiers has lost a little bit of pace, 2.5. We've got a Shimway and Arab ready and strong, poised, but what can they do? There's going to be guys that are just straight up stronger. So a Shimway giving that lead out. It is a punchy finish. Oh, Arab. Arab did not follow. Shimway sprinting. Arab coming through. And we've worked it out. We have worked it out, folks. We've got a win here. We got a 1-2. Arab. A Shimway holding off. Strong. Corbin Strong coming in. And a gap. We've got 10, 11 seconds before Almeida. Wow. This is a bigger race. There should be a roll of the dice for a win here for Sammy Arab. I think. What level is the Jiro Adriatico? It's like a B race, I believe. And we do get the 11-second gap plus the 10-second and 6-second bonuses for a 1-2 finish. Meanwhile, there is a gap at Fortunato, 55th on down of 41 seconds, then a minute 16. Not a lot of riders lose contention, but there's significant time losses for quite a few. And the almost better news, as we're still very early in this race, is that we are right there, just 3 seconds off the lead, but not in the lead. You don't want to necessarily take it yet because then it puts the burden on us. Ideally, you want to be second place, but you know that these guys are going to hang on. If it wasn't obvious enough, Ineos is National Bing, or was National Bing, through the 28th season. They've now been in... Wait, is this their first year? This is the 29th season, so it's their first year as Team National Being. Make that second year, by the way. It is 2030 now. Arab 4th, Ashimwe is 7th, Benny Messias is up to 14th. We've got 3 guys in contention. In the points, it's a 1-2. In the mountain, it's a 1-2. In the young riders, it's a 1-2. And we are second in the team, behind the team that had that few second advantage. Taking a moment to catch you up on everybody else. Bahrain Victorious, of course, remains Bahrain Victorious, but keep an eye on stars at the very least. How we're doing, average age, rankings, number of victories, all good things to see as we'll take a look at the entire World Tour, which of course we're not even a member of, while we are leading the rankings. We're number 1 in the world right now. BMB was formerly Bora Hansgrohe, and they are the best they've ever been last year, and we're number 1 in the rankings. Cofidis World Tour throughout, they've been there and maintained. It was their first year, I think 23, but they've been there ever since, and you can see how they've progressively gotten stronger and stronger, but never a top 10 team, and a record of 15 victories a couple years back. Yellow Comite, Continental Pro, same sponsor all throughout, and now in their second year in a World Tour after going from a 4-star to 4.25 to make it, but meanwhile only moving up a few spots with their World Tour level. Faustina was Pepsi, who was Epsi, which was Pepsi. I did fix that one. As for licensing, it was just Epsi. Now it's Faustina just this year. And way back in year number 1, that was EF Education. Intermarché has been unchanged and World Tour throughout, cracking the top 10 many times, as high as 3rd, their best year back in 26. La Gruppetto has been there for a few years now. C. Clerc before that. Many different iterations of the French team. Groupama FDJ initially. And they've been on the podium for the last few years straight, but never the top step. Lotto Destiny, same throughout. Started Continental Pro, World Tour ever since the second year. They were higher as a Continental Pro team than they've ever been as a World Tour team, and they've slipped outside of the top 10. They were all the way down to 19th in the rankings a couple years back, climbing back up in the short term. Placo Smith was Alpecin Duquesnic, continually World Tour, continually 4.5 stars or better, always in the top 10, their lowest last year at 9th. Kachua was AG2R before moving to Canada for the last few years, and since moving, they have improved a bit from barely making World Tour continually to almost 4.5 stars now, and finally cracking the top 10. Ratsa, this is the team. It was Leopard before. They were Continental. They spent 1 year, made Continental Pro, and here's where you could see that growth, where it became much harder. Continental Pro at 2.75 stars. The next year, that's like 2.95. There's just a sliver missing of that 3rd star, and they drop down to Continental. They pick up the new sponsor and instantly improve. They go from 3 to 3.5 to 3 and 0.8, and then they jump from being like the first team out of Continental Pro to the last team in to World Tour. They go from 42nd to 25th to 23rd to World Tour this year. 24 victories each of the last 2 years, and they are right at 4 stars now. Just that last little itty bitty bit. So how in the world is 3.75 Continental and 4 is World Tour? We're talking about a really, really tight gap through Continental Pro. Soudal, Quick Step have gotten progressively worse season by season by season. They've gone from 3rd down to 12th and just hanging on to that World Tour status. 4 years now they've been middling at the back end of World Tour. National Bing, we of course already covered. 4th. Last year was their lowest. They've always still remained on the podium. Jumbo Visma, 4.5 stars, is their weakest they've ever been. After 6 years straight at number 1, they slipped to number 2 last year. They've gone from nearly 5 stars every single year to about 4.7 to 4.5 in the last 2 years, dropping down. They went from 50 plus victories all but one season to 30 to 16, they're becoming a very different team. But they are still very, very strong in GC, still punchers, still classics, still good in time trial, just lacking sprinters. Total energies, Continental Pro most years, but now 2 years running at World Tour level, and with their best rating ever at 4.5 stars. They were 19th last year. Telephone, a very strong 4.5 plus, 6th last year. Continental Pro for many years. Caja Rural is who they were originally. They've been Telephone for quite a few seasons now. Truffaut, dang. CIC. I know that's a funky French word. I've heard it pronounced before, but only like once or twice. It's not Nantes. It's like Nantes or something. I don't know. But Atlantique. We're talking about a 2.5 star team at the start of this thing. Picked up that new. They improved and then picked up the new sponsor and just took off. And they've just gotten that little bit better each year. 4 and a sliver the last couple of years, but terrible in the rankings. Tudor, same sponsor throughout. Continental Pro, they even dipped down to Continental Pro, 3 stars. 3.25 drops to Continental. But then you got to come back as a 4-star team. They've been Continental Pro, and this is their first year. World Tour, their highest ever finish was just 21st, though. We are not going through all of Continental Pro and the competition here, though. Israel Premier Tech, Movistar are the 2 big names. UAE, Arceus, they're all Continental Pro. Somebody had a giveaway, right? But here's our progression from Lions Racing Team now, MTN, the last couple of years, from 10 riders to 25. Last year, we have 25 again this year, slowly growing the team from 1.25 stars to 2.25 to 2.5 to 3 and a sliver to 3.5, and we were still Continental through all of that. Finally, to about, actually that was more like 3.25 to a little over 3.5, about 3.6 to 3.8, 3.9. We are so close to that mark. But the victories, 4, 6, 7, 23, but we were down Continental. 11, we went through a little rebuilding there. We lost some guys, but got stronger, but we didn't get the wins as often. And that's also when we moved away from, we lightened our load. I think that next season, I simmed a lot more races as we were still just comfortable in Continental, but building for long term. And then Continental Pro. That was that first year where we worked really hard on the Continental Pro calendar so that we could make World Tour. We ran way more races than any year previous, and we matched our biggest win total. Last year, new sponsor, Continental Pro, higher ranking, we get from 15th to 8th. And the reason for that was because we were running the World Tour calendar. More points were involved, but less results because we were competing Continental Pro. 18 victories. What do we have so far this year? By the way, average age. We've never been older than 24.5. We've claimed 3 victories so far this season, which I've claimed all 3 of those. So the AI has done 0 victories up to this point in simmed races, and those more minor races, we haven't pulled any victories from those. But in terms of the rankings, so far in the season, we're number 1. 2,400 points already, beating all of the World Tour with UnoX and Geico as the 9-10 teams. Our point distribution so far this season, it's pretty obvious that we're looking at a totally different specimen than we had a year ago. Sammy Arab has 533 points already with his latest victory. 533. You know what he had last year? The whole year? 600 something. 600 something for the entire season. Because he blossomed so fast, came on late in the year, that his successes, his showing up, happened so late in the season that he only managed to get 600 points the whole year. And here he is, 7th of March, already on 533. Bosco, meanwhile, with his 300, I think that's pretty similar to what he had all of last year. So we're seeing a different thing. Samuels only has 188 so far. Samuel's still in the top 25, despite a slower start to this season at 23rd. The Shimway has already jumped a bit to 44th. Of course, these rankings overlap through 12 months. So this is going back into last season plus the start of this season, and the scores replace what happened last season. So our 960 for Samuels is going to be there until the Tour de France. So unless he repeats that sort of performance, we're going to see his score drop significantly at that point, but that's the bulk of his points. Paris-Nice a year ago, 340 for him, so he did pretty well there. And Sanremo. A Shimway, 590 for the Tour de France is almost half his points. But here's Sammy Arab now. Like I said, last season, his points came very late. Look at the 2029s on there. Tour de France, 375. That's where he got more than half of his points for all of last year. But Croatia, 77. Ventoux, 30 points. 30 points or less for all the remainder of his 2029 races. In fact, he's only got 4 races over the last 12 months, and 4 races ever, I would assume, because he hadn't done anything previously. He came on the scene very late. He's already done 2 performances this year that outdid anything he had done before, with the exception of 2 other races last year. And so this is big. And Croatia and 77 points is not exactly big points either, but he's moving up to 64th now. But the roll of the dice has worked out. The 4-point nation in popularity of Morocco is now a 5-point nation with that victory. So Sammy Arab has boosted Morocco. Big day, folks. Big day. And he's got a chance to do more in this race. We're just getting started. We've gone through a lot of time already on this one. But before we wrap the episode up, we're going to go ahead and get things underway at Paris-Nice. Tour A, high-level World Tour 1. I actually want to go back and check what's going on with the Jiro Adriatico. What level was it? It's also World Tour A. So these are both World Tour A races. I'm actually really glad that I pinpointed these as a kind of our first race targets of the year. You can see just how strong our Paris-Nice group is with 5 guys on Fitness Peaks. The only downside is Maccabee, who just came back from injury. So Maccabee's just getting back up to fitness. He's at 71%. It's not too bad, all things considered. You can see our freshness. Our fitness levels are very high for everyone else. Motivation is good. Morale's good. And that race day condition bonus, we get 5 plus 3s. Talking about a plus 15 expected. Let's see if we actually get it. And can that help us out in this, we'll round that up, 14-kilometer, fairly flat time trial here for Paris-Nice. It's the only one that they're going to encounter. And actually, you're really only talking about a couple more key stages following that. But you'll have to navigate the punchiness of these last 2 just to get through, and that's a very short 90K final stage. But 119K with a mountaintop, that's the one to watch out for. A 16-kilometer, 6% climb. That'll be the decisive point of the day, where this is just a 7.5-kilometer final climb. So Paris-Nice has a pretty solid climb to it. This time trial is not going to be decisive at just 13K, but for a guy like Samuels, if he has a bad day, it could really hurt him. But he's expected to have that plus 3. Let's hope he actually gets it, because he's going to need that to at least have a competitive time. At 13.9K, it's really close to a 50-50 split, just slightly more prologue. So it's a decent chance to do something. It is a good race day condition for Samuels. How good, we'll see in a moment. It's a plus 3. It's exactly what he's expected to have on the day. But it gives him a 67-69, so you could probably just average that out to about a 68. That's going to give him a pretty decent run at things. We're going to let him use the climb to make up some additional time. So normally I would back off right about now to an 86, but I'm going to let him continue over the top here before we then back off and ease off for a little while. Let's push back to that 86, though. We want to have some tempo before he looks so slow compared to the others, but maybe that's because I'm going ×1 speed instead of ×2 like I was doing for everybody else. So far, we put in good times. Matoni and Bosco both in the top 15, shortly off the pace, so I do have a pretty good grasp on what sort of tempo you need to set to do okay, but Samuels is already a minute down despite pushing harder earlier on. That's going to be a little worrying for him. I'm trying to finish this thing off as Hanoke gets ready to set off, but we will focus entirely on Samuels and finishing his run, and then we can worry about Hanoke and De Villiers when that time comes. Let them be on their own for now. Hanoke gets a +3. He goes really deep here at the start. Okay, now Samuels can push. Get that little, he's great downhill, so you can get that little bit more pace here, but he's going to be really far down, I would think, at this point, especially through that flat area he just had. This last little climb, we want to be able to push for him on it, but it's, it's only 500 meters. Red bar's gone. He's going to lose a little bit of acceleration. 50th, minute 54 down, but 50th for him, as bad of a time trialist as he is. I mean, we saw him lose 12 minutes before. This is less than 2. I'll take that. But Hanoke, what the heck, dude? You're done already. I mean, 85 is all we can run for you. Not a good time trialist either, so it is what it is for him. And then De Villiers will go soon after. We'll have to kind of ride this 85. Get a little acceleration now at an 86 to speed up for the final sector. And then get that final push across the line. 41st, minute 30. That's what a slightly better rating can do. And he actually ended up getting more points than Samuels did. Bosco and Matoni both still in the top 20, so they've got a good day. Matoni could end up being our leader for this over Samuels with a minute and a half to the good for him. Bosco obviously won't be able to climb later on, but Matoni, if he has a race day condition, could be our highest place guy. Another weak rider in De Villiers, so we'll get him through this initial climb and run it more like how I've run the others. Back off a little bit. He's not a strong climber, so now you kind of ride that 86. You get this gentle rolling, but mostly downhill or slight downhill, or at least flat, and then you ramp up again at the finish, so you don't push quite as hard, and it saves that last little bit. But the last 400 meters, attacking the last 400 meters isn't going to make more than a couple seconds difference. It's really the lead up to it, so you don't save that much for it to gain 4 seconds instead of 2 seconds. Not that big of a deal. It's only 400 meters. You still want to have something for it. You can lose more than the 4 seconds if you have nothing left. But Cavagna is the guy on top. Kung, only 4th for him, is probably disappointing, I would think. Aragave, key contender. Paulus, key contender, are in the top 20. Johannes Dalek still in. Johannes Dalek not riding for us anymore. He's 18th. Matoni is 20th. And then Bosco is 28th. Cavagna wins the stage and leads the overall. Okay, Matoni is 18th, 30 seconds down. He's in play. Bosco doesn't matter. The one that you worry about is the fact that, Samuels is 2 minutes down in 80th position on whether he can contend. But things are looking really good at Jiro Adriatico at this point. Perry-Nice not so much at this point. What we need from these guys to have any sort of chance of a decent finish in the overall is going to be that big mountain stage, having some +5s with Samuels, with Matoni, with those key climbers. You can get some +4s, +5s with them, and we could be in business for a decent overall, but otherwise at this point, Perry-Nice is not looking likely like we're going to do much with that one. But at least the other race is going particularly well, especially a win for Sami Arab in a stage that has resulted in a boost in popularity to Morocco. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm the Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.